Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to my impressions of Resident Evil Chapter 2, also known as Project W, being named after the project that ended up making Wesker, who is this chapter's new killer, along with the brand new survivors, Ada and Rebecca. Also, big thing coming in is the RPD changes and the adjustments to that map. So all of those we're going to talk about and how I feel about them, and for the most part, it's almost entirely good news. So let's go ahead and talk about the name of the chapter, good old Project W, good old Wesker. Wesker is an incredibly fun killer who's kind of got a little bit of everything. He's got a lunge, so he's kind of like other killers like Demo that can lunge, but he also has a very good map traversal with that lunge, where kind of makes him more like Blight. He's got a little bit of everything that makes him a very, very versatile killer, and he's really, really cool in that aspect. But he also has a lot of other stuff that's going on that's completely unique to him and makes him a very, very only play him and get that experience kind of character, which we don't have a lot of in DBD. There's not a lot of characters that kind of like are uniquely themselves and they're not alike other killers in Dead by Daylight. I think the closest example I can find is like Pinhead, like his little box thing. There's nothing really else in DBD like the box thing, or like Nemesis with his zombies. Like, he really does have his own weird thing with the picking up and the throwing of the survivors. Like, him picking up and yeeting the survivors around and just chucking them is something that's super fun, and it's super unique to that character. It's a riot being able to just like pick up Meg Thomas and just chuck her across and hit slam her into a wall. Like, it's just like such a weird thing that you never thought we'd be doing in this game, and the fact that they're able to pull this off without the game somehow breaking is just its own wild thing. But he's a riot to play just because of the way he can just like throw survivors around and slam them against walls, all that stuff. He's really, really fun to play. And the only thing I can think with that, at least in terms of his side of things, is like the collision that has always been a problem in DBD. I've made a video about that before. Like, the collision in DBD is scuffed. He has this weird instance where like his power just won't go off if he's too close to an object that would like prevent him from lunging. But unlike like Billy or Bubba, where like you'll like bump off of it, like he just kind of like very like sheepishly puts his power away. Like, the feedback on it's really bad. So in that regard, it's a lot worse, and I hope that they find a way to make that feel more smooth. But other than that, it's really well thought out. Grabbing somebody and throwing them and not connecting with an object infects them but doesn't do damage. Grabbing somebody and throwing them into something infects them and does damage. And if they're fully infected and you grab them, it's like an exposed down and you grab them. So they clearly thought this out. It's just that the collision's kind of like a little wonky. So yeah, in terms of his perks, a lot of his perks are situational. Superior Anatomy is the one where you vault faster after somebody vaults before you, and that's just kind of really situational. It's kind of more of a funny gimmick perk, which will find its way into some vault builds. Like, but that's other than that, that's nothing too crazy. Awakened Awareness is the one where if you're picking someone up, you get info, or you get the aura reading on who's around you while you're carrying that person. That can be funny for like Mad Grit, and can often be good situational info. Like, a lot of the time, survivors will be like sneaking up preemptively for a save, and will just like hide behind something nearby. It's not really a thing if you have this perk on. But the big scary thing that we got to worry about that will happen is people using this in tandem with Starstruck, because especially when you're running it with like somebody as crazy as Nurse, who can actually get value super, super easily off of Starstruck, having that aura reading makes it even worse. I hope they think about that and prevent that situation from happening. They probably won't, so expect the very painful combination of Awakened Awareness and Starstruck coming. Now, Wesker's biggest perk, his biggest W when it comes to his perks coming to the game, is the new amazing endgame perk, and probably one of the best endgame perks in the game right now, up there in contention with Noed and No Way Out, is Terminus. So Terminus, what Terminus does is once the exit gates are powered, so once all the gens are done, you are broken until the exit gate is opened. And then even after that, even a little bit after you open the exit gate, the bar has to drain down. So essentially, you have this situation. You have this situation that has happened to you almost every single one of your killer games that are really sweaty and get down to the final little end game scenario, is that survivors will run up, 99 the door, and then go back for the save, or go back for a heal or something. They're going back to body block for their friend. Now that play style that has been in the game for however long and has always been good is punished, because essentially it's asking you to trade. If you want to reset, you got to open the door and put yourself on a timer if you guys want to reset. Otherwise, you have to do everything you would normally do in the in-game injured because you are permanently broken until that lever is pulled and the gates are opened. So it's kind of making people choose. You know, like the end game situation for survivors has been made very, very dangerous by this perk. Now, do I think that this perk will be run a lot? No. Killers that really want to win don't like winning in the end game. They like winning at like 4 or 5 gens. And what makes them feel good? So they're probably going to running the big meta thing's still going to be like, I'm going to slap on 4 or 5 slowdown. That's a joke. Somebody's in the chat, somebody's in the comments always going, there's only 4 perk slots. It's not even possible to run 5. Hush. Okay, it's a joke. All right, relax. If you're already typing that, you're weird. Anyways, but you will get people running this, especially in tandem with like No Way Out and stuff like that. Even Blood Warden, like you'll get people running spicy endgame builds with this new perk. It's very, very good, and it's probably the biggest W to come out of his perks. Wesker is in a weird scenario because he's both fun to face, but also incredibly unfun to face. He's really fun to face because his power is really dynamic when it comes to him like zooming forward at you and his big lunges, his bounds as they're called. So he's got this like really wild hitbox on his lunge, his bound. And essentially, if you dodge physically out of the way, he's still going to hit you because the hitbox is extremely forgiving for Wesker, which makes him fun to play as. But against, it gets kind of like scary because like you can't really dodge him if there's nothing there. So you start having to think in like the cover and the environment. The environment is your best friend when you're trying to counter Wesker. So what you end up doing is you're trying to think of like, okay, he has two bounds that he can use before he goes into fatigue. How am I going to put the environment between me and him so he can't just come and get me right away? And thinking about that and thinking about trying to outsmart that situation is really fun. The unfun part is, like I said, that hitbox is really huge and really forgiving. So there are situations where you just gotta hope that Wesker player is bad and misses you, because if you don't have something to put between you and him, it is just kind of an L. You cannot dodge him. You can't do anything really about it because his hitbox is so forgiving with that sort of thing. Also, and this is perhaps my least favorite thing about playing against Wesker, is his terrace is 40 meters. Now you may be thinking that's larger than the largest, which is 32 meters by default, but like that doesn't matter too much, right? And I'm gonna say no, it does. Have you ever been in a situation where you're fighting against a Freddy and you hear his lullaby, so you know he's vaguely nearby, but then he just kind of shows up out of nowhere? Now imagine that if you could never wake up and you were just always in the dream world and you always had to deal with that weird lullaby of going, he's vaguely nearby, but I don't know where he is, and him just showing up randomly around corners. That is Wesker, because his terrace is so big that it's extremely hard to tell where he is at any given time, because his terrace, you spend so much time under his terrarius that you can't, like, he will be literally, I'm not even exaggerating, he will quite literally be in the middle of the map and you'll be on the edge of the map and you're still in his like middle tear radius. That is how much ground this covers. So you don't assume you're in any danger because you're under the effects of the tear radius from literally halfway across the map. So by the time you're actually in danger, you don't know to move yet, because you've been under Terrius this entire freaking time. So the Terrius is not any indicator of danger anymore. It's just kind of like a constant. And don't get me started when people start running perks that are based off the Terrius, because you're almost always going to be under the Terrius unless you're on a huge map like Ormond, like Temple of Purgation, like Mother's Dwelling. Like, you're almost always going to be under this guy's Terrius, and what Wesker mains are going to do, I'm calling it now, is just slap on a bunch of Terrius perks and be super obnoxious with this giant Terrius. There's really no reason for him to have this. It just kind of makes gameplay like super like unfun and frustrating from the survivor standpoint. I hope that he doesn't go live with 40-meter Terrius, but who knows? Maybe they'll just keep it. Okay, so for the survivor part, new survivor models do look great. Ada and Rebecca look amazing. They look almost exactly like their Resident Evil counterparts, and they're very, very faithful to them, including the Claire and Jill reworks. Claire and Jill had their faces reworked to look more accurate to their versions in their remakes, and they actually look really, really nice. The also wonderful thing is that these characters come with voice lines now, and not even just talking about like little one-off voices like Ash where he goes, all right, we're here. They have those too, but they also talk to each other. Like I was in a situation where my friend joined a lobby as Chris Redfield, and I was playing as Rebecca, and they're partners in the original game. And he switched off Chris, and Rebecca said, "Bye, Chris, be safe." And it was just like, it about made me cry. It melted my heart so much, because Resident Evil 1 is my favorite game of all time. It warmed my heart in a way that I couldn't describe. It was so nice. You can tell that this chapter was made with love and made by people who loved the series. The good thing as well is that the new perks that came with Survivor, the 6 new perks, they're fun and not really that scary from a killer standpoint. So let's go ahead and break that down. Rebecca is basically the winner here in terms of perks. She has the more W's than Ada does. Hyper Focus is a perk where the more time you spend on a gen hitting great skill checks, the more progression you get for your great skill checks. It also applies for healing as well. It's fun because it kind of challenges you to hit those great skill checks, and it rewards you for doing so. And a lot of people, including Scott, infamously said this is the most powerful gen perk in the game. Now, I'm not trying to be like, oh, well, Scott's wrong, but I tried to replicate. I used the same builds he did. I used toolboxes. I tried to replicate this oppressive OP gen speed, and I couldn't really get in a situation where I was like blowing killers out of the water and being super obnoxious. The worst that happened was I put on a purple toolbox with good add-ons, and I got a bunch of skill checks, and I got through a gen really, really quickly, and I improve on it at the same time. And I got through a gen really, really quickly. And then I was like, okay, well, that's pretty busted. That was pretty strong. But that took like 3 perks of my build to make happen. So I would have to like fully commit to like a full gen rush build. It kind of feels more akin to like how a lot of people were afraid of Hattie's perk, the one where she breaks a totem and she gets more gen speed, where everybody's like, oh, this is going to be the new gen rush perk, and everybody's going to be scared. And it's like, I don't know, I couldn't replicate the terrifying gen rush results that people were worried about with hyper focus. I think a more realistic feeling that I had was when I was using hyper focus, it felt more like the gens went at a normal speed. Like, and I don't mean like 90 seconds, I mean like the old gen speed before the mid chapter. The gens felt more like how they did before while I was using hyper focus. And that was only when I was like consistently hitting their great skill checks. If I missed even one or had to get off for any reason, I just lose them all. So I think that, and this is a good thing, right? This is good for you if you like killer. Is that I think the power of this perk is a little overstated. I feel like unless you get like full people running full builds, full loadouts dedicated to it, or full swifts dedicated to it, you're not gonna have that's much of an issue with this. So hopefully my 9 hours of work with this have been a testament to that. So yeah. Better than new is situational, but not really a threat. This is the one that if you heal somebody, they get a 6% boost on repairing and a bunch of other things, but it goes away in like 35 seconds. It's too situational to matter. Like, I can see this perk being helpful and effective if you, let's say you bring somebody off hook, you go tap a gen, you heal the person, and then you both hop on the gen. That's when this perk is really nice, because now they're getting a bonus while you're on the gen, and while you're on the gen together, just because you healed them and you both hopped on the gen. That's kind of like the only time that's really like, wow, this perk got good value. But outside of that situation, it's like, it's not really that much of a threat. Now, the biggest W, the greatest thing that's come out of, not even just Rebecca's perks, but all the perks that came from this chapter, is Reassurance, which is kind of like reverse camaraderie, which is you're able to literally hit a secondary button, an activate button, and freeze someone's hook timer if you are within 6 meters of them. And this is any direction. This happens through floors as well. So essentially what this does, just straightforward, there's no other word for it, it's an anti-camping tool. It's an anti-camping tool. This is here specifically to stop killers that just sit at the hook and just stare there and just slow down the game by trying to kill somebody early. If you have a situation where somebody's face camping outright or they're just proxy camping, there is no better perk in the game now to directly stop that situation from happening. This should be if you're one of those people that are worried about solo queue and have hated solo queue since the mid chapter, the renaissance of reassurance is coming, because if people start running this, camping goes out the window. Like, camping is not rewarded under this. If anything, what this does is it makes it to where the person that is camping is forced to go chase down the person that's using the perk, because the perk has a 40-second cooldown and lasts for 35 seconds, something like that. So it lasts a long time. But if you just stay at the hook and wait it out, they only have to wait 10 seconds until they can just reapply it. So it's in your best interest to chase off the person that is using this perk. And that is healthier for the game as a whole. It just is. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of killer mains that watch me that are just like really butthurt now because they can't just sit at the hook and get free pressure. Once again, see my video rant about how you doing easy things doesn't make you good at the game. Sitting at a hook doesn't make you good. It just doesn't. And it's one of those things that, especially in solo queue, makes the experience really rough. It's better and healthier and will make you better at the game to go chase down that person that is applying the effect rather than staying at the hook and with someone who is. The only way I see this being an issue is sometimes camping, unfortunately, is the answer. It just kind of is. Forcing somebody out just kind of is the answer. That's just all. Like, if you're at 2 gens, need somebody dead, sometimes proxying somebody out is the answer. Can somebody just run in within 6 meters, quickly press the button and then leave and make your life hell? Yeah, they can, unfortunately. That's the only thing where I kind of see this being an issue. Sometimes camping isn't malicious. Most is. I feel like most camping is, like, most people that camp are not doing it because it was like a smart thing to do at that time. They're doing it because it's easy and it does a lot of damage. Like, that's literally, it's easy and it gets me the W. Like, but there are instances where smart camping is a thing, and there is no discerning between that here. It's just like all camping. Press the pause button. So that's the only thing I'm worried about with this. I don't know if you can, or how would you even go about separating that? I don't know. I don't design games, so. Ada is definitely the loser here in terms of perks. Most of her perks are kind of just meh. Reactive healing. If somebody gets injured while you're around, your healing gets better. Cool. Very situational. Low profile in the end game. You lose your scratch marks, but it's not even permanent. Okay. Sure. But her winner here, her big winner, once again, another W, especially for those of you who stopped playing Survivor or hate playing Survivor since the mid chapter, because especially in solo queue, Wiretap. Wiretap is Kindred, but for gens. So after a while of gen progress, after working on a gen for a while, you can Wiretap it just the same way you would apply a Blast Mine. But this highlights the gen to everybody on the team in yellow, just like with Blast Mine. But the kicker here being that this gen has aura reading on it now. So anytime a killer comes within 14 meters of this gen, they have aura reading as if they were hovering around a hook on Kindred. So now you not only know, you can not only signal to your teammates. So imagine we're in a solo queue match. Imagine we're in a solo queue situation. You can now not only signal to your teammates that you're on a gen by highlighting it yellow with Wiretap. Now, if the killer pushes that person off a gen, you physically see the killer's aura as they chase them. And until the killer kicks that gen, that aura stays. So if they commit to the chase and don't kick the gen, you can see the person still in chase and know they're still in chase, which helps you with hook saves. That helps you with, should I stay on my gen? This helps you with positioning. Should I get out of the way? They're chasing my direction. This is Kindred for gens. And it is very good, and it's going to be the most helpful things to making, if you run like Kindred, Wiretap, Reassurance, and then like off the record, like you have the biggest like anti solo queue pain build that I can imagine. Like, you are quite literally going to be able to provide so much info for your team that it's going to be great. Like, solo queue is going to be healthier because of these perks, and it's a very good change to the game. I can't wait for these perks to come in and start being used. The final thing we'll cover, because this video is already incredibly long, is that we have new RPD. RPD is no longer one singular map. It's been cut in half and made into 2 different maps. Now, it's kind of interesting. They're more like cut into 3 floors, I would say, and they just block off certain rooms. So it's like west side is the west side of the map, but it's also a little bit of east side. It's just that different rooms are open. It's hard to explain without actually, like, watch the footage up there. You'll see what I'm saying, because like it's kind of hard to explain without being there. But some rooms are open on west side because it's the west side map, but when it's the east side, you can go a little bit into the west side, but some of the rooms are just blocked off. So it's kind of like one of those situations. Overall, my verdict after playing on both maps for like 9 hours today is that they're better. They feel better. That's another thing that I saw with like a lot of content creators talking about was like, oh, new RPD is trash. They actually made RPD worse. And I literally don't get that. I played on this map for almost 9 hours today. I don't get that feeling. I do not know where that comes from. The hallways are more breathable. The hallways and the rooms are more breathable because they quite literally expanded the space that is available in the hallways. Like they literally like widened the hallways and widened the rooms. So they're quite literally bigger. So you have more space to use your power as killer, but also more space to run as survivor and run and dodge as survivor. There's more open space because they put holes in all the walls. This is something that we had been suggesting for a really long time, is that like, why don't we just put more holes in the walls? Mr. X has theoretically run through the RPD already by this point in RE2 and just blasted through holes in the wall. So let's just add more of those, and they did. So like, you don't get these weird zone, like, you know when you're playing old RPD and you're like, I just want to get to the main area, I just want to get to the main hall. But like there was just so much like in the way and you had to travel through so many rooms just to get to that desired destination. That's not a thing anymore. That's a thing of the past. There's so many holes in the wall now and multiple rooms and areas that basically you can get to whatever part of the map you want to with very little resistance. And that's good for both killer and survivor. And this includes holes like vertically, like you can drop between the floors very, very easily. It's more like Midwich where there's a lot of drop downs. So there's an easy, way to go down every single way. And also the map's just smaller. The map's just smaller overall. So like one of the huge issues, especially for killer with RPD, was that map was huge. Like DBD Twitter said that was their biggest map that they ever made. I don't think anybody ever fact checked that or actually found out the full tile count. But according to them, it's their biggest map they've ever made. But now the maps are relatively small, which is really, really nice, especially for the killer side of things, because traversing that huge map was a problem before. Another good thing is a lot of the problem areas, like the upstairs of the library, are just cut off now. Like those, like you just don't have access to those no matter what version of the map you're playing on. And that's good, because let's be frank here. People only went up to the top of the library to abuse boons or to abuse boil over. Nobody ever used the top of the library for anything like productive or healthy for game health. Like everybody just went up there to do something mean. So no love lost there. Another wonderful thing is they actually added new areas to both to both levels of RPD, which are these outside areas with the main gate, where you can actually loop outside, which once again better for killers because it's more breathable and you can actually use your power more easily out there, as well as better for survivor because that's more pallets and more loops. So yeah, I think the only thing I'm kind of worried about is the fact that they really heavily increased the pallet count, and a lot of these pallets aren't bad. So we kind of got to be on the lookout to see if like especially with like M1 killers, like how scary that map gets. It's kind of hard to tell right now, just because most people are playing Wesker. I played against Myers once, like one Myers match, and that was it. And that was I don't even think we were on RPD for that match. I think we actually went somewhere else. So yeah, I don't really know how badly that'll adversely affect like M1 killers and killers that can't really deal with pallets too incredibly much. I didn't think it was an egregious amount of pallets, but there was definitely noticeably a lot more, and there were a lot more safe pallets as well. A lot of them are crap pallets. Let's say that too, for those of you shaking in your boots as killer mains. There's a lot of unsafe pallets everywhere too. There's a lot of pallets there that you can just do a little moonwalk and free hit. You're in that situation where the survivor has to vault one way or another, and that's all they can do is just sit at the pallet and vault back and forth until you eventually catch up. There's a lot of those kind of pallets. So that's one of those things I'd have to see it hit live and see. It appears it's not that big of a deal, but hopefully that's right. But yeah, overall this chapter was incredibly amazing. I love it a lot, and I can't wait for it to come to live servers. I think the issues that I have with it are incredibly minor, and the things I love about it are really, really good. So I can't wait for this to hit live servers. Obviously, there's some stuff that needs fixing, like Wesker's incredibly buggy. So Wesker has a lot of bugs with his power and how he interacts with like the exit gates, with vaults. There's a lot of weird stuff with that. But that's stuff that'll get resolved, which is why I didn't really mention it when we were talking about Wesker, because no, that's going to make it live. He's not going to be that buggy when he goes live. So yeah, What do you think about the PTB? Have you watched or played it? And what did you think about it? Are you excited for the killer and perks coming, or do you think that this is going to be a bad thing for game health once this patch comes through? Let me know down in the comments below. But other than that, it's going to be it for today's videos, friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. But I do upload daily, so hopefully I will see you tomorrow. But if I don't, you know, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye, friends.